Hello friends, I am Dr. Himanshu. Today we will continue our discussion of peripheral arterial disease in part 2 of my video. So we have studied the vascular anatomy, we have studied the pathophysiology, in which we discussed that there are two most common causes. First is atherosclerosis and second is Buerger's disease. Atherosclerosis is medium and large vessel artery disease, most common in old age, and Buerger's disease is disease of young and distal vessels. So we have studied about atherosclerosis. Buerger's disease we will study after. In clinical presentation, we had seen that the presentation is of two types. First is chronic limb ischemia and acute limb ischemia. Acute limb ischemia, in which the duration is less than 2 weeks and it is threatening the viability of limb and there is no collateral development. It is most commonly due to thrombus and embolic episode. But chronic limb ischemia, it takes time. We have studied about the investigations, of which USG based like Doppler, duplex, intravenous ultrasound and ankle brachial index, MR angiography, CT angiography, digital subtraction angiography and carbon dioxide angiography, and the third was plethysmography. So now we will start today's discussion with the treatment part of chronic peripheral arterial disease. Management of chronic arterial insufficiency can be done by either medical or surgical methods. So in medical, first is behavioral therapy, in which there is a structured exercise program in which at least 2 hours of exercise per week for 3 months is done. Then there is smoking cessation, because this is the most important lifestyle modification. For dyslipidemia also, diet or exercise and lifestyle modification are useful. Now the pharmacotherapy for chronic limb ischemia. So pharmacotherapy is done for two purposes. First is risk reduction and second is for symptomatic treatment. So risk reduction is done for comorbidities like dyslipidemia, diabetes mellitus, atherosclerosis and hypertension, and risk factor, that is smoking. So for dyslipidemia, statin, that is HMG, coenzyme A reductase, and gemfibrozil, these two are used. In diabetes mellitus, the goal is HbA1c should be less than 7%. Foot care is done and the care of skin lesions and diabetic foot. For atherosclerosis, aspirin in low dose, that is 75 mg per day, and clopidogrel 25 mg per day are started. For hypertension, the goal is less than 140/90 in diabetes mellitus non-diabetes mellitus patient and less than 130/80 in diabetes mellitus patient. This is done by mostly ACE inhibitors. For symptomatic chronic limb ischemia, that is symptoms of intermittent claudication, we use drugs cilostazol, that is phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitor, which is a vasodilator and it increases the collaterals. So after 3 months of this cilostazol, we will reassess the patient and we will see whether there is significant collateral development or not, and then we will either do follow up or we will do surgical procedures. Now the surgical treatment. So it is important to first see what will be the appropriate line of management. So first we will confirm the diagnosis by doing our investigatory test and clinical finding. If there is no functional disability, then no urgent treatment is required and follow-up visits are done. If there is presence of symptoms, then first we will do supervised exercise program and then we will see after 3 months and we will assess for the clinical improvement and the progression. Or we can start with pharmacological therapy, that is cilostazol, and after 3 months we will assess the patient. If there is significant disability despite medical management, then we will evaluate for additional endovascular or surgical revascularization. In case of lifestyle limiting symptoms, then we will do angiography or tests for anatomic delineation. Now we will see whether the patient is to be treated by open surgery or endovascular method. So for this there is TASC guidelines. So peripheral arterial disease of chronic type is divided into 4 types: type A, B, C and D. So in first type, endovascular surgery is the treatment of choice. In second type, endovascular surgery is preferred. In third type, endovascular or open surgery, and in fourth type only open surgery is done. So how we will see what is the TASC guideline. So this first type of lesion, this guideline is for aortoiliac lesion and femoropopliteal lesions, but the basics are same. So in type A there is unilateral or bilateral stenosis, that is there is narrowing of lumen, but that is less than 3 cm, either in common femoral artery or in external iliac artery. In type B lesion, this infrarenal segment is involved, but here also this is less than 3 cm. Unilateral common iliac artery, or in case of occlusion, this is a unilateral occlusion. In type C lesion, there are occlusion also and stenosis also. So stenosis should be 3 to 10 centimeters. So in first and second cases, the stenosis was less than 3 centimeter. In second case, occlusion were also present, but these were unilateral and these were in the distal femoral artery. In type C, either the stenosis length is increased, that is 3 to 10 centimeter, or there is occlusion at the site of internal iliac origin. So internal iliac is also involved. In type D, either there is significant occlusion or there are multiple stenosis or the occlusion is large area. So this type is not fit for endovascular treatment. This is to be done by open surgery. So these are the guideline for aortoiliac lesion. Now for femoropopliteal. So for femoropopliteal, that is distal, the severity is less. So the single stenosis, either there is single stenosis and stenosis is up to less than 10 centimeter. In this case the stenosis was less than 3 centimeter, but here the stenosis is less than 10 centimeter, or single occlusion less than 5 centimeter. So this is type A. In type B, there are multiple stenosis or there is a long single stenosis, but the stenosis length is up to 15 centimeter. There may be calcification also. So in type C, the stenosis is more than 15 centimeter, and in type D, there is occlusion of more than 20 centimeter. So in type C, either stenosis or occlusion more than 15 centimeter. In type B, it is less than 15 centimeter, and in type A, less than 10 centimeter or occlusion less than 5 centimeter. So basically for small stenosis type A, for multiple stenosis or small occlusion type B, for large stenosis or significant occlusion type C, and for very significant or long multiple stenosis type D. So type D will be done by open surgery, type 1 and B by endovascular preferred. So now we have, after knowing what is the anatomical level of obstruction, we will proceed for the therapy. So for type A and B, the endovascular therapy is there. So in this, first is transluminal angioplasty. So in transluminal angioplasty, this is the lumen of vessel and this is the atherosclerosis which is causing the obstruction of lumen. So in this, via a catheter, guided catheter, we will insert a balloon, and here after the balloon is inflated, see this stenosis segment is relieved. So the catheter is inserted under local anesthesia, most commonly through femoral artery, and inflated for more than 30 seconds. In post-op period, again angiography is done to see the patency, to see whether the procedure is successful or not. In subintimal angioplasty, this is the wall of blood vessel and there is complete occlusion of this lumen. So here we make a tunnel in this wall. It is like creating a aneurysm, and then we increase this channel and then we inflate the balloon here. So this is the new lumen. So this is the diagram of this subintimal angioplasty. This is the tunica intima and this is the new channel. Third of this endovascular therapy is stenting. In stenting, either we can use this metallic stent. So metallic stent can be over the catheter, which are inflated, which are expanded, or self-expanding. In self-expanding, this is the tube and inside it the stent is present. So after this tube is inside the vessel, then this tube is removed and this stent get expanded and the lumen is increased. Then there is stent graft. Because the problem of stent was that over the time thrombosis developed and there was a failure rate. So this stent graft is developed. This stent graft is also called a Webern endoprosthesis. This is made of polytetrafluoroethylene and external nitinol stent, but the internal surface is coated with and bonded with heparin. So there is less chances of thrombus formation over this Webern endoprosthesis, that is stent graft. Then there are two other methods of endovascular therapy: cutting balloon and atherectomy. This is the cutting balloon. This is like a normal balloon, but longitudinal microsurgical blades are there. Then there is atherectomy, in which the atheroma, that is the atherosclerosis plaque, is either excised or the ablation was done by laser ablation. Now we will see what are the open surgical management of chronic limb ischemia. So depending upon the location, for aortoiliac disease, that is this portion of aorta and common iliac region is involved. So here we use a graft. So this is the graft which bypasses this thrombosed segment and blood flow from proximal to distal. So it can be either unilateral or bilateral aortofemoral bypass or aortobifemoral bypass. Then suppose the patient is having comorbidities and unfit patient, in which major surgery cannot be done. Here the axillofemoral bypass is done, in which this is the patient, it is here axilla, and this is the lower limb, and here is the femoral artery and there is the axillary artery. So in subcutaneous plane the bypass is made between axillary artery and femoral artery, that is axillofemoral bypass. Then there is iliofemoral or femorophemoral graft. In iliofemoral, this external iliac region is bypassed with this femoral artery, and in femorophemoral graft, this one side of femoral artery is bypassed to other side of femoral artery. So this is the femoral graft. Then in case of thrombosis for superficial femoral artery, here the femoropopliteal graft is used. So this common femoral artery is bypassed with this popliteal artery. This is the femoropopliteal graft for superficial femoral artery. For infrapopliteal disease, infrapopliteal bypass is used, in which also the proximal blood supply is from the common femoral artery and the distal is infrapopliteal artery. So what are the complications? The complications of endovascular surgery are failure of treatment over the time because of thrombus formation, hematoma, bleeding, thrombosis and distal embolism. That is the breakdown of thrombus and lodgement at distal site. The complication of open surgery is surgical site infection, graft infection, aortoduodenal fistula, lymphocele, femoral nerve entrapment and knee contracture. In this aortoduodenal fistula, this is a rare type which is of two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is the true fistula in which there is communication between duodenum and the aorta. This is because of pressure necrosis of aorta, which then leads to duodenal necrosis and fistula formation. Presentation of aortoduodenal fistula is bleeding in form of melena or hematemesis and infection. In type 2 of aortoduodenal fistula, there is pressure effect over duodenum which leads to erosions in bowel wall and leads to bleeding and sepsis. Treatment of aortoduodenal fistula can be done by three methods. First is extra anatomic bypass, which is axillofemoral bypass, in which the axillary artery is bypassed and connected to the femoral artery in subcutaneous plane. The second is in situ bypass, and the third is endograft, which is in case of emergency the one graft is inserted inside the lumen of aorta and the bleeding is controlled. That is an intraluminal stent. Now we will study about acute limb ischemia. So this is defined as rapid decrease in lower limb blood flow because of acute occlusion of either peripheral artery or the bypass graft. There are two etiology. First is because of embolus and second is because of thrombosis. Now what are the causes of embolus? So causes of embolus can be secondary to atrial fibrillation or cardiogenic causes or the valvular heart disease, or in case of any tumor inside heart, or because of paradoxical embolism. So these are the causes of embolus. And for thrombosis anywhere is because of Virchow's triad, in which first component is endothelial injury. Endothelial injury can be because of atherosclerosis, plaque breakdown. Second cause is venous stasis. This stasis is because of circulatory failure. And the third cause is hypercoagulable state. So these three. Now what are the clinical features of acute limb ischemia? Clinical features of acute limb ischemia can be represented by 6P, that is pain, pallor, pulselessness, paresthesia, paralysis, and poikilothermia. Poikilothermia is the most unreliable. Paresthesia and paralysis is the most sensitive. Pulselessness and pallor, these are also present in chronic ischemia. But this paresthesia is never present in chronic ischemia. To assess the severity and management protocol of acute limb ischemia, there is TASC2, that is Transatlantic Society classification, and Rutherford classification, in which the patient is categorized into three categories: 1, 2, and 3. Category 1 patient is viable and there is no immediate threat. Category 2 patient is under threat. Category 2A is salvageable with prompt treatment, and category 2B needs immediate treatment, that is immediate surgery. Category 3 patients are having irreversible damage and the patient needs to be amputated because the limb cannot be salvaged. So how we will categorize the patient? The categorization is done on basis of physical examination and on basis of Doppler examination. So nerve get irreversible ischemia in 4 to 6 hours. The muscles undergo irreversible ischemia in 6 to 8 hours, and the skin undergo irreversible changes in 8 to 12 hours. So the first symptom is because of nerve. So peroneal nerve involvement is there, which leads to foot drop. This is the first sign. So on physical examination, if there is no sensory loss, no muscle weakness, and Doppler signals are normal for arterial and venous, then the patient is in category 1. In category 2A, there is minimal sensory loss, but muscle weakness is not there, that is muscle power is present, and Doppler is also normal. In category 2B, the venous blood flow is present but arterial blood flow is impaired, and the Doppler is inaudible for arterial signal, and there is mild to moderate muscle weakness. So muscle have started to get ischemia. So this is the stage of immediate surgical treatment. And in type 3, which is irreversible, there is skin or tissue loss is there is complete anesthesia, and because both arterial and venous blood flow is affected, so Doppler sound is not available for both arterial and venous phases, complete inaudible. So in this there should be no revascularization and patient needs to be amputated. So what will be the treatment algorithm for acute limb ischemia? First we will see the history and physical examination. Then we will start patient or anticoagulation, that is heparin 5000 international unit or 50 to 100 unit per kg if no contraindication is there. Then depending upon the category 1 and 2A can go imaging, category 2A will undergo immediate surgery, and category 3 will need amputation. In category 1 and 2A, depending upon the imaging, either medical or surgical treatment. So how we will do the revascularization? Surgical revascularization can be done by thromboembolectomy by Fogarty catheter. So in this Fogarty catheter, this is the lumen, this is the thrombus. So catheter is introduced via this, and this is the catheter, which after getting pulled back pulls the thrombus with itself. So this is the Fogarty catheter. In hybrid technique, first catheterization is done to take out the clot, then fluoroscopy is done intraoperatively, and fluoroscopy guided thromboembolectomy is done, followed by balloon dilatation. So this is the hybrid technique. Third is endovascular treatment, and fourth is bypass treatment, about which we studied in the management of chronic limb ischemia. And the medical management is done by catheter directed thrombolysis, in which thrombolysis is done in distal disease, distal to femoropopliteal artery, in which a 6 French sheath is inserted over common femoral artery, and anti-thrombolytic agent, that is urokinase is instilled inside the thrombus over a period of days. So it is a slow procedure, but the benefit is that reperfusion injury rate are decreased. In post-op period, heparin is continued. If the patient needs to be put on prolonged anticoagulation, then warfarin is started, and after the stabilization, re-bypass or definite surgery is done. So this is all about chronic limb ischemia management and acute limb ischemia. The left part, that is Buerger's disease and Raynaud syndrome. These two topics we will cover in our next video. If you like this video, then please like and subscribe. If you want any topic for me to make videos on, you can comment in the comment box. Thank you.